News that wearing face masks in shops is to be made compulsory. We heard that yesterday. That's going to happen from the 24th of July. Mixed reviews on that one. But in the for 1 in 10 people suffering with claustrophobia, those new rules have literally left them terrified.
Yeah, and Hilary Freeman is one of those people. She calls it maskaphobia, and she's joining us now from her home in London. Good morning, Hilary. So, you are a claustrophobic. You knew that before the compulsory mask rule came into effect.
Yeah, I mean, I knew I was claustrophobic, but it was never a huge problem because I was never in a situation that I couldn't control before. Yeah. I'm not somebody who's particularly bothered by being in a lift or something. It's more having my face covered or not being able to move, feeling trapped. Yeah. And that's the problem with masks, and obviously the fact that I can't choose whether or not to wear one.
I think a lot of people will be listening to you, Hilary, and they will begin to identify with this because you, like many others, may have thought the hard bit of this pandemic may have been behind you, but for you and a lot of others, it's just beginning. The hard bit, the tough bit, isn't it?
Yeah, sure. I mean, before you were able to go to the supermarket without wearing a mask, and I thought with everything opening up that life was starting to get back a bit more to normal. But for me, because I find wearing masks so absolutely awful, I feel now that I'm not really going to be able to go out at all other than just for a walk outside. I won't be able to go to shops. I won't be able to go to supermarkets. I won't be able to travel anywhere. So, yes, for me, it feels kind of like the lockdown is just starting properly.
Hilary, a lot of people say, they find the masks uncomfortable, they're a bit hot. But describe to people exactly how you feel, because it's quite extreme, isn't it? People might be thinking, well, listen, none of us like them very much, but just describe how it affects you wearing a mask.
It makes me totally panic. So I just feel like I can't breathe. I find myself holding my breath, and then I start to hyperventilate. I start to get dizzy, and I start to feel like I'm going to black out. I feel sick. It's just a horrible feeling of just sheer panic, really. OK, now we're going to bring Nick and Eve as Speakman in on this. Before I do, I just want to say to you, Hilary, you will get people who are saying, get over yourself. You're only being asked to wear a mask, which is not going to be worse than catching coronavirus. But for you, the immediacy of this, the fear of this is very, very real. Yeah, I mean, I've tried, I appreciate, I think if somebody said to you, I'm afraid of heights, you wouldn't say go and jump off a building, go and do a bungee jump. And I think that's the problem. It's being told, well, you've got to wear a mask now. Just go and put it on and go out now. There's no time to get used to it. There's no time to prepare. It's just been imposed on you. And, if you have got a phobia, it's a real thing. And you can't just get over it in one day. No, and people that we know deal with people with phobias all the time and very successfully are Nick and Eva Speakman. They're also joining us this morning. And Nick and Eva, good morning. You're saying also, you've got a lot of people who are in a similar position to Hilary contacting you already.
Yeah, and I've got to say, really feel for you, Hilary, because like you say, it's overwhelming. I mean, the human body and the brain, our primary instinct is survival. And if you feel that a resource that you need is threatening that survival, then you're going to have the kind of response that you're having. It's almost like your internal alarm. If you were to burn toast, the fire alarm goes off and you react accordingly. But your internal alarm is going off, and it's a false alarm in essence. And mask wearing now is putting lots of people on high alert because they're now feeling that they're not going to be able to go out. They've lost a sort of a part of their freedom. And so, yeah, you're definitely not alone. And it's your claustrophobia, really, Hilary, that needs to be addressed.
Yeah, Nick, how can you address that? We're saying, that it's going to be compulsory on the 24th of July, and Hilary's, getting to the point where she feels like she won't be able to go out and do anything because her anxiety is so high.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the best way for Hilary to deal with this is to deal with her claustrophobia. And the way of doing that is to find out actually when it started, because the good news is no one is born with a phobia. So this is a definite learning. But in the interim, what Hilary can do is distinguish the difference between claustrophobia, which by definition is a fear of enclosed spaces, and actually wearing a mask, because wearing a mask is not a fear of enclosed spaces. So to distinguish between the two, one of the things that you could do is go out into the open, in the middle of a field, for example, and start putting the mask on and then taking it off and putting it on, because essentially she can, doing that, distinguish the difference between the two.
Yeah, I think that you've got to change your perception from restriction to protection and gradual exposure, and you've got to take it at your pace, because one of the things that I guess is elevating your anxiety
lack of control.
Is this lack of control and being told you've got to do it. So in the interim, and it's going to be about tolerance until you sort that claustrophobia out, but that tolerance can be elevated with gradual exposure. So that can be that you will sort of maybe put a mask over one ear, put it across your chin, but all the time. It's not just gradual exposure, it's gradual exposure with reassurance. I can breathe, I'm in control. This is protection, not restriction. So it's almost like that you're having to appease yourself and support yourself through it until you become more confident with that mask
Hilary,
wearing.
is there anything you're hearing? I'm talking to you, but I'm also addressing people who may be watching today. But is there anything, Hilary, that you're hearing that you think, that's feasible, I can give that a go, I could see me doing that exercise?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm perfectly willing to try that, and I have tried to wear masks and tried different types of masks, and I do find that some of them are worse than others. But I mean, the thing is, if you're claustrophobic and you don't like going into lifts, go into lifts and gradually realise that nothing bad's going to happen to you in a lift. But the sensation of having something tight across your nose and mouth, even if you're not phobic, a lot of people don't find that very pleasant, and it does make you hot and feel uncomfortable. So it's much more difficult to get over it in that sense, because there is an actual issue there. It's not, as well as the claustrophobia, there is the discomfort, and it does make you feel less able to breathe normally. So
I think, Nick and Eva, a lot of people, their claustrophobia might not be as extreme as Hilary's, but a lot of people you talk to say, as soon as I put the mask on, I'm the same. I put it on and immediately I start thinking about my breathing. Normally you don't think about breathing, do you? You just breathe. But as soon as you have that on, I get my breath gets out of kilter, it's a bit hot, and I start to have that feeling of panic. I mean, I haven't, and not as extreme as Hilary's at all, but I think a lot of people watching will identify. So tips for all of us. Should we maybe be practising with the mask at home, like build up the time, but you can take it off if you need to?
I think that's very important, and even wearing the mask round the house and just knowing and reassuring yourself all the time that you are in control. And when it comes to going outside, plan what you're going to do, so you can maybe go into one shop, and then that you can come out of the shop, you can sit in your car, you can take the mask off and have that for a while before you go in the next shop. So planning allows you to feel more in control. Yeah,
also controlling your breathing before you put the mask on. So you can do sort of diaphragmatic breathing. So you're breathing in for maybe for the count of 4, you hold it for a count of about 6 or 7, and then you do a long exhale. But another really great tip, and particularly for everybody, and for you, Hilary, that you can try, and that is a really fast-track way of creating alpha waves in the brain. Those are the ones that we would normally sort of encourage to create when we do things like mindfulness and yoga and relaxation. But a fast-track method to get there very quickly is to do a few sighs, and that is literally you just breathing in for a count of 3 or 4, and then you're doing a huge sigh, and you're going to really sort of relax your body, let your shoulders go, and do that 3 or 4 times. And what that does is that kind of tricks the brain into actually this is over and everything's okay, which is when we would normally instinctively sigh.
So do that before you put the mask on, so calm yourself before you put it on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and then you can use it as well once you've got the mask on, but you'd be better off then starting to count that breathing in. So it is sigh before. Even imagine yourself wearing the mask and using the sighing technique. It's just a little fast-track method to sort of reassure yourself.
Guys, really appreciate that. Hilary, we hope there's some compensation in that for you, some hope that you will do well with what lies ahead, and we wish you all the best. Thank you for telling us your story.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Nick and Eva, thank you as always for your advice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you know, experts say as well that even having, the funny type masks with faces are goofy teeth or something
Yeah,
on it.
because you can get ones now of your own face, can't you?
Well, that's
Have you
not
seen
funny.
those? No, but no,
How's that
as in,
funny?
so that it'd be your eyes, and then they print on it. So they take it from a photograph, your nose, your mouth. So
Well,
it
that's
looks
funny, is
like
it?
you. I didn't say it was funny.
Well, I was saying do funny things. Because if you do funny things, you laugh, you relax, and you don't think about the claustrophobia.
I wasn't
apparently.
connecting the two, honestly.
Yeah.